introduce myself.
Aloha and welcome to Ehana Kako, a weekly program on the ThinkTech Hawaii Broadcast Network. I'm Keli'i Akina, president of the Grassroots Institute. From time to time, we've featured candidates who are running for public office. We've had Mufi Hanneman, Charles DeJew, Duke Iona, and many others. Today, it's our privilege to have a man who is running to replace the seat of U.S. Senator Dan Inouye. He's Cam Cavasso, and he's been a dear friend for many, many years. We're going to get into the heart and mind of Cam Cavasso, see what his values are, why he has given his life over to public service, and what his vision for Hawaii is all about. So please welcome with me now Cam. Cam, welcome to the program.
Oh, Kaylee, good to be here.
Well, you've got some experience in politics. You actually were a state legislator for many years. How many years was that?
Well, I served for 3 terms.
3 terms.
6 years, but you know, my government experience actually goes all the way back to high school days.
Is that right? Tell me about it.
I was a student body president of Keli'i High School
way back when. Now that means something. Did you put that on your resume now, student body president of Keli'i High School? How did you get elected? I mean, how does someone in high school manage to gain the following of his
It's an interesting story. The other Japanese students at Keli'i High School came to me and said, asked me to run for office, and so we did. I was a people person.
All right.
I was a swimmer and canoe paddler and surfer, and Keli'i used to be surf riders. So we were an ocean people from Waimanalo, Kailua, and it just kind of slipped in, and I began to take responsibility. By nature, I gravitate to leadership. I take responsibility for what's going on around me just instinctively, and so it worked out.
Well, you really are an ocean man, actually, and you do canoe, and in fact that's a theme in your own vision, being a steersman for a canoe, for Hawaii and so forth.
Yeah, that's right. You know, I should have a paddle right here. I just paddled the Kailua race this weekend, Saturday morning early.
There you go.
Paddled around Bird Rock and then the Mokaluas out to Bowie and back to Kailua. Good fun. It keeps me going. But the theme of our race is a steersman for Hawaii, and a steersman cannot do it alone.
That's right.
Yes, he sets the course. He senses the waves, and he rides what needs to be ridden, and he adjusts for the wind and the currents and what's going on. But he cannot do it alone. It takes a whole crew working together, and that's a theme of who we are. I'm a man who brings people together of diverse backgrounds and diverse abilities. Each has his own place in the canoe to make that crew work well.
Well, you know, on our program here, we've had Democrats and we've had Republicans and Libertarians, and some of them know better what it is to have the wind at their back and heading with the waves propelling them. But you know what it is to swim against the current and to fight the powers that be
I do.
In an uphill battle.
And you know, I'm okay with that. I tell people that, by the way, my mom was a Democrat, my dad was a Republican, and I just prefer to call myself Kama'aina Hawaiian.
There you are.
And that's really my heart. And that was my heart in high school. You know, we didn't have political parties back then. It was all of us were together. And in the Army, it's the same. You know, I served 5 years on active duty in the Army, 3 years in the infantry, 2 years in the Transportation Corps. We were one people. We're Americans. I kind of dislike the separation of our peoples into parties. I want to bring us together, and that's my goal, and my heart is to work us together, all people.
Now, you talk about a value that is very important in Hawaii, working together. In fact, the name of our program, Ehana Kako, Let's Work Together, brings up the fact that at Grassroots Institute, we're trying to bring people together regardless of party lines. Yes. How do you assess the political climate since perhaps something very monumental has taken place, and that is the passing away of the venerable Senator Inouye? There certainly was an institutional buildup of a single party in this state under Senator Inouye, and with his passing away and the retirement of Senator Akaka, what is your assessment of the political climate here?
Well, let me go backwards a little bit.
Sure.
You know, Hawaii was pretty much Republican until World War II.
Okay.
And then Dan Inouye and the others came back from the war, and they were rejected, inappropriately so. And they went with the Democrat, and the Democrats have led Hawaii now for 50 years.
So you're saying, back then you're saying this, and I know you weren't back then in politics.
I wasn't even born yet.
That you might have envisioned it differently. You might have, as a Republican, opened your arms to the likes of Dan Inouye and John Burns and the others.
Dan Inouye was actually a hero of mine. And I can remember sitting at home in the early morning listening to him speak and valuing who he was as a leader and respecting him as a leader.
Well, fast forward now.
Okay, so now we're out of balance. We've been out of balance. We were out of balance, maybe perhaps then. We're out of balance for the last 50 years. Now I believe it's the opportunity to come back into balance and set a new direction for Hawaii. And Dan is gone, and I believe it's my place to step into that United States Senate seat and take the mantle of Dan Inouye and bring our people together, Republicans, Democrats, Independents, Hawaiian, Caucasians, Filipinos, Chinese, whomever, bring us together as one people and build Hawaii into the influence it should be on the nation and the nations. I believe Hawaii's place is to be a leader in the United States and a leader in the nations. And with our key location in the middle of the Pacific, and with technology today and the shipping, we have the ability to bring new shipping to Hawaii, new commerce to Hawaii, new communications, and to be the center of commerce for all of the Pacific. Our time zone, our location, all leads to value, I believe, that Hawaii should be a leader in the world.
Well, this clearly shows that you have the economy at heart. It's kind of back in
Yes.
President Clinton's first major presidential campaign, in which Jim Carville put signs all over the campaign room that said, "It's the economy, stupid." In other words, we have to have solutions for an economic problem. How do you assess Hawaii's economy? What do you see when you look at the current economic condition of Hawaii?
I see a poverty mentality in our state. I see a dependence on government, a dependence on favoritism, and a government that wants to give this business favor over this business, or this family favor over this, and take from here to redistribute over here. That's not America. It's not Hawaii. We are people of independence, and so our economy is in trouble because of the mentality of depending on government. I think that, what is it, 1/3 of our people are now on food stamps or food support. I think I read in a paper, or maybe a little less than that, but it is huge, and our economy needs help. We need help in shipping, we need help in business, we need help in jobs, and we can do it.
Well, let's talk about that government dependence. Obviously, there are two directions. There's dependence upon the federal government for our economy, and then there's dependence upon the state government itself. Talk about the federal government. What do you see in terms of Hawaii's relationship?
Well, our Constitution says that our states should make the decisions. When something is not delegated to the federal government,
those powers are reserved
to the states. And our federal government is usurping the authority that it has not been given. For example, it's telling us how to run our education system. That's our place. Our place in Hawaii, our parents and teachers and administrators and people, we should be making our own decisions on education, not be dictated from Washington.
Do you see that tied into the funding issue, that so often we cry for our education system, we need more federal grants, and in order to get the federal grants, we have to toe the federal line?
You're absolutely correct in that, and we would be better off not taking the federal monies, maintaining our independence and building our own economy, generating our own support, not being dependent on the federal government. They're telling us how to do education, they're telling us how to do shipping, they're telling us how to run business, they're telling us how to run our homes. In every aspect, they're telling us how to run our defenses.
Well, speaking of defense, one of the important inputs to the Hawaii economy has been the presence of the military, both of the military itself and the residual spending by military personnel in Hawaii. And a lot of that comes to us from the federal pipeline. What do you
Okay, that's one of the areas where I support the federal government.
Go ahead.
And again, I'll go back to the Constitution. The Constitution delegates to the federal government the responsibility for defense, the military. And I'm sorry, but the Obama-Schatz administration is going in the wrong direction. To cut our military down is wrong. and dangerous. So I believe that we need a stronger military. And I'll say there are three aspects of our military in Hawaii. One, we need strong. We're in the center of the Pacific. We are a key location, and we need to build up our military. Number two, we need to acknowledge that they are part of Hawaii. They are a key part of our community. The military families, the National Guard, the reserves, the active duty, they are part of Hawaii. They're part of Ohana, and we need to include them. And number three, we need to be taking care of our veterans. Our veterans have served, our National Guard, our reservists, and our active duty soldiers and airmen have served us. They've given sometimes their lives and often their health for our benefit, and we have a responsibility as a federal government to take well care of them. So our federal I support fully the federal government's total involvement in our military community in Hawaii, supporting them financially.
Sure. Now, you're a fiscal conservative, of course, and Washington, D.C. has found that the coffers are not so deep as they had thought at one time, and so there are cuts that are planned across the board in terms of all areas, particularly the military, downsizing of bases and so forth. What are your thoughts about that here for Hawaii? Do you think that there's room for downsizing further without harming the economy or our national defense?
Well,
or would you fight for not downsizing?
I would fight for not downsizing, and I would fight for not downsizing, particularly in Hawaii. And essentially, even the Obama administration has acknowledged that the shift to the Pacific, the shift to the Asia region, is saying our region is now key to the nation. So I'm optimistic that we'll maintain our forces here, and I will fight to do that.
So you envision, as part of the mix of economic solutions, continued military presence,
I do,
which feeds into the economy.
Absolutely. And I also envision increasing our tourism and opening our borders to more tourism from Asia, helping by putting some of our people who will process the tourists coming so they can be processed overseas before they arrive in Hawaii, so they don't have to worry about the visa when they get here. Right now we have an overload in our airport, and we're slowing our tourism into Hawaii. So there's solutions that can increase our tourism as well. But then we have the ability in Hawaii also to work with technology, communications, and I believe to bring headquarters of IBM and other large corporations to Hawaii for the central location in the time zone. Let's bring high-paying jobs into Hawaii, and I'll work as a senator to encourage them to come to Hawaii, and I trust that I'll be working with a governor that will be more than welcoming of new business.
Put a question to you when we come back from a short break. How, in fact, do we do what you just talked about? How do we attract venture capital to Hawaii? We have egg on our face because of the super ferry debacle a few years ago, and people are a little timid about investing in Hawaii. I'll be interested to know your solutions to that.
Good.
I'm Keli'i Akina with the Grassroots Institute, and we're talking to Cam Cavasso, candidate for United States Senator. We'll be right back. We're on the ThinkTech Hawaii Broadcast Network. Don't go away.
I'm Hong Jiang, host for Asia in Review on Tuesdays.
And I'm David Day, host for Asian Review on Thursdays. Both of us broadcast our respective shows at 4 p.m.
And my topics tend to deal with questions related to environment, culture, history, and sometimes human rights.
And my shows tend to be on international business, foreign policy, geopolitics, and national security. And you can watch our shows live on the ThinkTech website at thinktechhawaii.com.
And you can also watch us on YouTube or Olalo.
So come join us on Thursdays at 4 p.m. I'm David Day.
And on Tuesdays at 4 p.m., I'm Hong Jiang.
Aloha.
Aloha.
Aloha and welcome back to Ehana Kako. Every week we're here talking with movers and shakers, and I want to say thanks to one mover and shaker in particular, Jay Fidel, producer and founder of the ThinkTech Hawaii Broadcast Network. We produce about 20 to 25 hours of original content broadcast from here, Honolulu, Hawaii, across the world, and you can access that content at thinktechhawaii.com. That's thinktechhawaii.com. Now back to our guest today, candidate for United States Senate, Cam Cavasso. Cam, we were talking about the problem of Hawaii's economy, and one of those problems is that we're just not the place that investors are coming to invest in a big way. You said you'd like to see IBM headquarters and that type of investment here in Hawaii. What can be done to change this investment climate?
Well, Hawaii has been walking in fear for too long. Fear of mainland influence, fear of international influence, fear of new industry. We want to hold things into ourselves, but that's not life. That's not what succeeds. What succeeds is when we open ourselves open to risk, invite new technology, new people. You know, that's really Hawaii. Ohana, e komo mai, come in. And that's the spirit of Hawaii. And in recent years, we have feared new technology, new business. We have feared new transportation. But across the world, new technologies in fuel and natural gas and new technologies in communication are opening the doors, and we must open our doors, e komo mai, and say, come in. And I would, as a United States Senator from Washington, D.C., from the mainland, from the influence that I can bring from that place, encourage and open doors for people and companies to come to Hawaii, open the doors for them to work with our legislature and our governor and our mayors.
Sure.
I've met with 2 mayors in the last 2 weeks, one on Kauai and one on Maui, and they're forward-looking, progressive men who will lead us and open their doors as well. So I'm excited.
What can be done from Washington, D.C. to change the business climate that is often thought of as being overly regulated, one in which favoritism takes place and so forth? Many of these problems that stifle the investments here are at the state level, and so they are germane to a state legislature, to a governor, and so forth. What do you think can be done from Congress?
Well, I perceive my job as an ambassador of aloha, an ambassador of hope, an ambassador of open doors, e komo mai. And I believe that if we go there, not with the idea of increasing government, because that has been too much the mentality, both state and federal government controls, government direction. From my perspective, I'm encouraging the federal government to pull back from control. So I'll be able to tell businesses, come to Hawaii. We're pulling back those administrators. We're giving you liberty and freedom. I believe, Keli'i, that we will be able to do that, and that there are the leaders in Hawaii. I'm looking at people across the state right now running for office that I believe will prevail. And the prevailing notion is open, reduce the regulations, let the entrepreneurs, let people invent new business, new ways of working, new processes, open ourselves to the modern technology and move forward.
Well, one of the areas that has been most regulated, and you speak about it a lot, is the area of shipping cargo, cabotage as we call it. The Jones Act goes back to 1920. It has been with us. It's an institution. It is part of the political doctrine of the dominant party in Hawaii. And everyone who has served in Hawaii's congressional delegation over the last 25 years has gone to bat, really, for the defense of the Jones Act. Not everyone. There are occasional exceptions to that, like Congressman DeJew. But what are your thoughts about the Jones Act?
1920, 100 years of restriction. Now, I'm not arguing with what happened in 1920, 1930, maybe even up to World War II. But today, forcing Horizon or Matson to to buy their ships from an American manufacturer when there are very few manufacturers is a violation of free enterprise and a violation of Hawaii's sovereignty, in my opinion. We allow Hawaiian Airlines to buy their airplanes from anywhere in the world. Why would the federal government be telling us that you cannot buy your ships from anywhere? It's a big deal. It'll save families, I'm told, according to government studies, $3,000 per year per family. How many families could use $3,000?
Now you're a defender of military presence.
I am.
And perhaps the most prominent argument offered to justify the Jones Act is that we need it for national security. What are your thoughts about that?
I think that's bogus. It is a bogus argument. Now, in World War II, The Liberty ships, you know, we came in with not much manufacturing ability to build ships, but with American ingenuity. We were building a ship a day during the war, the Liberty ships. We can't, if there's war, if we need it, Americans have the ability to rebuild and retool very quickly, and to maintain an ancient technology that is outdated. A shipbuilding technology in the United States that is now outdated is not good for Hawaii or the nation.
Now, if I'm interpreting you correctly, I don't hear you saying that we should repeal this 100-year-old statute on the federal books, but I hear you saying that we need to allow our shipping companies to purchase their ships from outside of the United States, because one of the requirements of the Jones Act is that shipping companies purchase their ships from within the United States in order to do commerce between ports in the U.S. Do I have that correct?
Well, that's step one, and that's a step that we have unity of purpose with right now. We have agreement with Guam and Puerto Rico. We have agreement among Democrats, Independents, Republicans. It's a step that makes sense to take right now. There are other processes that we're going to need to look at in our shipping. We have to open our ports. We have to increase our shipping here. The longshoremen have the ability to increase their share of the business. We can increase the number of ships and the amount of shipping that's coming through Hawaii, not only on Oahu, but on the neighbor islands, just like we have with the airports. So there are other issues that I believe that we can improve on our shipping and commerce, but let's start with that simple process of allowing those ships to be purchased at 1/10 the cost, or maybe it's 1/5 the cost. I think it's $500 million to buy a ship from the mainland, whereas if they get it from Hong Kong, it's $100 million, 20% of the cost.
Well, one of the impacts of the Jones Act is upon the cost of fuel, because fuel is shipped here through Jones Act compliant ships. Well, what are your thoughts in general about energy in Hawaii and being able to bring down the cost of kilowatt hour that we're paying right now, and being able to have the kind of fuel that is both appropriate for our environment but available in order to fuel our economy?
The mainland is using natural gas everywhere. The cost of electricity is coming way down. We don't have it in Hawaii, but with shipping we could. I've spoken with the folks here in the refineries. We can change, we can reprocess our refineries to take natural gas. We can bring the cost of electricity, the cost of fuel for our cars and our equipment and our farm equipment down from where it is right now. If we'll open the shipping, open ourselves to technology, improve what we have, and not fear a progressive and new way of doing business. We may have to bring lots of ships in with natural gas. That may be the long-term solution, but we should be able to. Right now we cannot. We are restricted in the tankers that we use because of federal regulations. We need to set our people free.
So you would be in favor of an exemption from the Jones Act that would allow us to be able to get ships that could bring in liquefied natural gas, which we can't really do now.
That's
Except
right.
we bring it in a very limited fashion by loading them into Matson cartons and bringing those over, which is kind of ironic.
You know, we now have a surplus of fuel in the United States. We are now producing more than we're consuming. And this is a welcome word to our 48 states. Now let's get Hawaii in on the deal, okay?
One of the problems with energy here in Hawaii is the control of energy by a monopoly corporation, the Hawaiian Electric Corporation, or Hawaiian Electric Industries. And we see a similar kind of monopolistic control in shipping, Matson and Horizon having the lion's share, virtually all shipping here in the islands. What are your thoughts from Washington, D.C. perspective as to what can be done about some of these trusts, if you will, about some of these monopolies here in the state of Hawaii? Is it just an economic problem, or is it a legal problem? How would you approach this issue?
On the electricity, I think it's an infrastructure challenge. You know, Hawaiian Electric is a pseudo-government monopoly. They have built the wires. They've built their underground communication systems, and so for us to simply demand that Hawaiian Electric give that up would be, I believe, inappropriate. That's a stealing. And so if there are other industries that are coming in that are going to use their communication, their wires, the high-speed underground they have, there has to be compensation to Hawaiian Electric for what they've built. You simply can't walk in and take it. But competition builds strength. Iron sharpens iron. And if we can bring in electrical competition, I believe with new technology that it will be good for Hawaii. I'm not sure how yet. Haven't really worked that out. But I'm optimistic and knowing where we are as a creative people, that we're going to be able to build competition back into our system without stealing or taking from those who have put their hearts and finances into building already.
What can we do to diversify, or do you think we need much more diversification on the fuels that we use here in Hawaii? Is it a matter of simply importing liquid natural gas, or are there things we can do on the island?
There are things we can do on the island, and we're working with new technologies. On the Big Island, for example, getting down and taking advantage of that heat that's there.
Geothermal.
The geothermal. I have no doubt that we're going to be able to use the ocean, the waves, and the currents that we have to develop something that's economically viable. Solar has had a stronger foothold in Hawaii than almost anywhere else in the nation, if not anywhere else in the nation. I believe in diversification. I believe in not putting all of our eggs into one basket. I'm a little concerned about the windmills. They're not profitable from what I understand, and they're only, my understanding is they're profitable because of tax breaks, and I'm not so thrilled with government building something that's not profitable.
Well, when we come back from a short break, what I want to ask you to do is to go a little deeper in an area that's on your heart. You mentioned it earlier, education. You're concerned about the federal influence over our educational system, and I'm wondering what your solutions are for Hawaii's educational system. This is Keli'i Akina, and our guest today is Cam Cavasso. You're watching Ehana Kako on the ThinkTech Hawaii Broadcast Network, and we'll be right back after this short message.
Hi, I'm Donna Blanchard, and I host the show Center Stage on the ThinkTech Hawaii digital series right here every Wednesday from 2 to 3 Hawaii time. I would really love to have you watch the show and see what we do here. I talk with some of the most amazing people, artists, most of them, all of them involved in some sort of artistic process. And our goal here on the show is to dig into that artistic process, and you would not believe what some people say, what some people do, what people go through to express. And these are people who have to express somehow, and I find that infinitely interesting. Not only that they have to express, but how they end up doing it. I really hope that you will watch the show and enjoy talking with some of these people the same way that I do. Thanks, and I hope to see you soon on Center Stage on the ThinkTech Hawaii digital series, Wednesdays from 2 to 3. See you soon.
Welcome back to Ehana Kako, a weekly program on the ThinkTech Hawaii Broadcast Network. I'm Keli'i Akina with the Grassroots Institute, and my guest today is candidate for the United States Senate, Cam Cavasso. We'll just dive right back into the discussion now in our final segment and talk about something that's near and dear to your heart. You know, Hawaii's educational system has gone through numerous evaluations, and I'm not talking about the teacher evaluations. I'm talking about the numbers that come out in the end, the quality of the scores of our students, the deliverables and so forth, and we're not really doing all that well. There's a huge federal tie to the performance of Hawaii schools. What are your thoughts as to what we need to do to fix the system?
Well, you know, when I was in the 5th grade in elementary school, Kailua Elementary, school was tough, and we had a school system that was one of the leading ones in the nation. We were a leading edge people. It's no longer that way. 20 years ago, I think the numbers are that we had 4,000 administrators and was it 8,000 teachers. Today we have 10,000 administrators and 12,000 teachers. The ratio is crazy, and it's taking away, it's a reflection of government influence and control that takes away from the parents, the teachers and the administrators running our education system. The federal government has no place telling us how to educate our children. They should get out of Hawaii. Common Core, Pono Choices, a derivative of Common Core, is a system forced from the federal government, and it's wrong. We need to bring our control back home, bring our ratio of teachers to administrators back to something that it was 20 or 30 years ago when I was in elementary school, and it was further than that actually. But there's much we can do, set our own standards. And now this is a Hawaii issue as far as dividing it among the counties, but wherever I go, when I'm on Kauai, people in Kauai want to control their own education system. People in Maui want to control theirs. The Big Island the same. I would encourage us to go local, to go to the grassroots level and recapture us, but I will do my part to pull the federal government, to the best of my ability, out of Hawaii's education system and leave us to our own sources and directions.
Do you think that we even need a federal Department of Education?
No, I don't. And it's glad you asked the question. It's a recent phenomena. It wasn't there. It's not in the Constitution. No, it's a grab to control our people, to influence them from Washington, D.C., when the strength of our people is the individual strengths of each state on their own. Hawaii has its own uniqueness, and even further than that, each island has its own uniqueness. So, no, we don't need a Department of Education, the federal government. I would move to end that. It's a big, huge bureaucracy that shouldn't be here.
You mentioned Common Core earlier, and so the question that I want to ask you is, what's wrong with a Common Core? A set of information developed by the federal government that we should make sure that every single child, every citizen is trained into? What do you see wrong with that?
The Common Core was well-intentioned. I mean, governors push for it along with the president in trying to set it up. But now those same governors who push for it have realized their mistake. What they've done is they have opened their states to control from the federal government. No, we don't need those controls. We need competition. Natural competition will drive us to come up. Countries in Asia, countries around the world now have better education systems in the United States, and we were once the best. And Hawaii was once the best. Hawaii itself was once the most literate nation in the world. We should be back to there, set our own standards, get them out.
You talk about competition. It wasn't that long ago, a couple of years ago, that Hawaii's provision of health care through public-private partnerships, through employers in particular, rivaled that of any other state. We had a 93% coverage of the people in our state, and what was lacking was made up in charity. You know, you're a small businessman yourself, so you have to pay those premiums for your employees. But then we introduced to Hawaii the Affordable Care Act from the national level and created the Hawaii Healthcare Connector, and we've actually done some damage to the levels of coverage here in the state. What are your thoughts about all of this?
Our medical care system, our healthcare system in Hawaii was one of the best in the nation, if not the best. And by having the Health Connector, the federal government forced their views down on us. What is it, $220 million spent on
At least.
Was 7,000 people signed up, and then they found in the last day they got another 3,000. So I don't know what 2.2 million divided by 10,000 is, but it's a huge amount of money that's wasted. And we need to get the Health Connector out of here. And we need to tell the federals and their healthcare program to get out of there, to get out of Hawaii and leave us to solve our own problems. If we want their help, we'll ask for it. But right now, send them home.
Well, that's a pretty clear message, and right now we're not quite sure whether we can continue to afford the Healthcare Connector. In fact, we're pretty sure we can't, and we need to infuse it with more money. Where do you think that money should come from, or should it
by
just
the way,
be
I'm glad to see. I just want to compliment HMSA on their decision to say no, they're wasting money. They already had a system. HMSA, Kaiser, they already had a system in place. Private sector that was working. Let's not mess it up. So bravo to HMSA for pulling out and working with the small businesses they have, and let those small businesses go back to HMSA and Kaiser work directly with them, not through government largesse or trying to sponge off the federal government.
The Hawaii congressional delegation for about 15 years has been pretty much uniformly united in support of a bill introduced by Senator Akina that dealt with establishing or recognizing Native Hawaiians as a self-governing entity, such that we would have a government-to-government relationship between the U.S. federal government and the nation of Native Hawaiians defined by blood. Congress has failed to pass this, so our congressional delegation, our senators and our congresspersons have stood alone, but they've lost that battle. The Supreme Court has struck down race-based elections and other features associated with the Akina bill, and now our president, through the Department of Interior, is trying to revive this concept of a federally recognized Hawaiian nation. What are your thoughts on this issue?
Well, let me start with the last part of your
Yes.
point. The president is trying to force something on Hawaii that's totally inappropriate for us and our people. He's trying to force an Indian tribe status into Hawaii through executive order when Congress and Hawaii and our people said no. Now, I recognize that, yes, as you pointed out, that our congressional delegation was pushing for the Akina bill. I believe the Akina bill was a mistake. We are one people. No matter what our race or ethnicity, we are still one people. And that goes back to our foundations. E komo mai, welcome.
Well, a lot of people will say, the poor Hawaiians who lost their land, don't they have the right, just like Native American Indian tribes, to be a self-governing entity, to be a tribe, to conduct casino operations on their land, to have sovereign immunity on their land? I sense in Hawaii sometimes there's a lot of sympathy toward that.
No.
What do you think about this?
I'm from Waimanalo. I've represented Waimanalo in the Hawaii legislature for a number of terms, and yeah, I hear that sometimes, but that's not the heart of our people. And the answer is not separation and division. The answer is to come together as a people, and the answer is to continue to value private property, and to value the work ethic, and that's not to say that when people are in trouble we don't need to help them, for we do. Widows and orphans, those who cannot help themselves, it is appropriate that we reach out and take care of those people. But for the most part, for most of our citizens, the way to go is to build their own lives, to build their self-worth, to build their own families, to build their own homes, to buy their land and support it, not to be given things for free and not to take from others.
It seems as though the issue of the identity of the Hawaiian people has become a federal issue as well as a state issue. And recently,
they're trying to make it a federal issue. They're trying to make it a race issue. They're trying to create a racial division that I believe is a sad commentary on our current administration. And I go to bring us back together again. And that's the leadership and the direction that I will be in Hawaii. I have 5 kids. I'm blessed. And 2 of my sons are married. Both of them married Hawaiian girls. I have 10 haole grandchildren now. Beautiful family. But it's not dividing us by race is the wrong way to go. And what they're trying to do in some of those places on the mainland, let them not influence or contaminate Hawaii.
Senator Schatz gave a press conference last year prior to the election season. It was after there had been an expose of the Department of Hawaiian Homelands showing in the Star Advertiser that this agency has mismanaged its property and mandate, and also that there's some corruption. And Senator Schatz appealed in his news conference to the President of the United States and the Department of Interior, saying that Hawaii cannot handle the Department of Hawaiian Homelands. We need to bring the federal government in to oversee and take that over in terms of its management. Thoughts on that?
No. Total disagreement with what
and why?
Schatz or the President is saying.
Wouldn't the federal government be able to manage it better as the Department of Interior manages the Native American Indian affairs?
Not hardly. By the way, my wife grew up in an Indian reservation in South Dakota, and I visited those reservations. It's a sad commentary for people that are trapped, and those who make their own way and go out into the economy do much better.
Well,
so just to answer your question, no, we need to make our decisions in Hawaii Department of Homelands should stay out. Department of Hawaiian should be our people making.
Just a last question on this issue.
Sure.
Then, if we're saying no to the federal government, no federal recognition, no Akaka bill, and so forth, we're not an Indian tribe, and we don't want the Department of Interior overseeing that aspect of our population. What is the answer for Native Hawaiians? What is the solution to some of the issues that are being faced by the Native Hawaiian people?
Historically, the Native Hawaiian people were the leaders in the world. Opikaia, excuse me, I can't.
Opuka'i.
Opuka'i.
Very good.
Went to America and very quickly picked up English and became an outstanding student. I think it was at Yale or Harvard, I'm not sure which, and a leader in the mainland. And he brought those values back to Hawaii, and Hawaii became a leader in education. Hawaiians, ethnic Hawaiians, along with the other people. Kapiolani included others. We have been an inclusive people. So the answer is not separation. The answer is to lift up the education system again. And some of my grandchildren are in Kamehameha schools. I am grateful for Kamehameha schools and the work that they're doing with those young people. And that is the answer, to bring us together. We have successful Hawaiians. Peter Apo is a good friend of mine, a leader. Yourself, Keli'i, running for OHA, a leader of Hawaiians. This is the answer. Hawaiians have proven themselves to be men and women and people of great ability in the past, and they are people of great current ability. So no, let's not separate the races. Let's lift us all up and let them be the leaders that they can. Those who are becoming dependent on government, I believe that it's hurtful to them. And I encourage my children and my grandchildren to stay free.
Coming full circle, we started the program talking about the fact that you're not afraid to swim against the current. I asked a Democrat in the seat you're sitting in right now what his perspective on the Republicans is. Let me ask you, as a Republican, what your thoughts are as to why people need to look to an alternative to voting purely for Democrats.
Okay, well, let me put it out on the U.S. Senate level first. At the federal level, if Hawaii is to have proper representation in Washington, D.C., now they've had all Democrats for a long time. The indications are that the United States Senate is going to go to the Republicans this time. Indications are that we're going to win more seats than the 6 required. And it's my place as a Republican to represent Hawaii from, unfortunately, that political perspective. The political perspective I don't like, but I accept the burden and the responsibility. It's reality. You know, as a minority in Hawaii's legislature, as a Republican, and I used to call it political racism. And I had to work to overcome that. And
or denominationalism.
Yes. So I overcame it, but it was a difficult hole. And so we need balance in, we have a Democrat there in the United States Senate. We have a temporary Democrat there right now, who I believe will be gone on November 5th. I expect to be moving into that seat. This is a special election. We don't need to wait till January to send me to Washington, D.C. Maybe I'm getting too political here, but it's this is a special election. That means that the special election says that on the election day, whoever wins that election is immediately the senator that is taking Daniel Inouye's place. And I believe that's in Hawaii's interest to let that be a Republican.
Well, Cam, thank you very much for sharing your mana'o, your thoughts, your heart here with us.
Keli'i.
Wish you the best.
Aloha.
Thank you. This is Keli'i Akina with the Grassroots Institute signing off on behalf of ThinkTech Hawaii Broadcast Network. We'll see you next week on Ehana Kako, which means let's work together. Aloha.